Okay, this time the video is gonna be acoustic only. I have prepared my audio recorder, the Zoom H1N, and I forgot to take the memory chip with me for my camera, so maybe it's the perfect opportunity to only focus on sound. And I'm sitting at the place in my hometown where I had the experience when I talked about it in that video about the birds. And now I have this stereo directional recorder, and I want this time, like, I can direct the recorder to the specific bird. But first, I think I want you to get an atmosphere. How do I say it? I want just to listen and get a feel for this environment. I'm gonna put the recorder down to the side, drink my coffee for like, let's say, 6 minutes, and then I start listening to specific birds and what I feel about their sound, their voice. Okay, it starts now. birds that in the tree again spoke to me initially. Get it in. They're too speaking with each other. Yeah, I don't want to make this sound because, I'm also, you know, the same thing, when I try to get the emotional resonance of an environment. And I put the camera down, and the people became self-conscious because they saw the camera and stopped talking. But since I suspect that some of the birds are, I don't want to ruin it for myself, so... Wait a second, I have to sneeze. So I don't want to repeat their sounds. I don't want to do anything. I just, want to react to them. I'm a big smile, by the way, on my face when I heard that bird. And I wonder if you can... I've set the recorder to the highest quality because I want you to really pick up the subtleties, especially the birds responding, some of them, I think, to my voice, and there's a subtle change. They may sing the same song, but the color of their tone, I don't know how to describe it. It changes a little bit, and depending on... So this is the type of voice that bird spoke to me. The first time, but exactly this way, but the, it had a warmer tone to it. This one feels like it talks, sings more to the outside. And I thought in a moment when there was one farther apart that was singing the same song to this bird, and I was wondering, I don't know, it's absolute projection, but what if, teaching each other how to speak this way? But I don't know. But thinking that, paying attention to this specific song or the specific way of speaking for this bird, it is the way it spoke to me. I would suspect it's there. I don't want to say anything, just listen to the sound. this flock of birds I've looked up online. The word that was missing is flock. I said family. It's also like a society, a bird society, but that's what it was. This flock knows me now and feels safe around me. So if they weren't safe, if would go to a flock that does know me, they would say completely different things. I love this bird. Now I say these things with with the danger of projecting, but right now I want to be honest and to say what I feel, and I feel this bird. It felt like this warm tone you speak to a hurt child too. This, and I hope this doesn't sound weird or awkward, but it's this warm motherly tone. Yeah. But I feel this song is played. It it it's used in different contexts too. The feeling I get now is that this bird is saying it less personal, is saying it more out to the open, speaking more in general. Did you hear it? To the left, more to the left, came from that forest, uphill, far away, the same way of singing. For a moment. And there's also a second bird to the left. It's a little closer than the forest, more clearly, and sings that exact same way. But a little not stronger, a little bit less warm, more breathy. I've never heard this one. in this tone. I mean, that bird was a moment ago singing the same way as this warm sounding song, but organically changed now into this different thing. It's I turned the recorder to the direction of where I think that bird is. And the first bird is to the right. And that bird that was initially singing the same way as the first bird is now directly in front of. I think it's in that forest uphill. Here? Dude. I don't know if this is like a topic change. It's still bird sound related, but I don't know if it is a. I don't know if it is a pattern, not pattern, but stereotype or whatever. People who are interested in birds spend their time cataloging bird sounds, and this feels weird to me. In a language form, because it feels that's not how it works. But I noticed certain recurring sounds. For example, twice now I noticed this. A moment before, I can't record this now because I don't know when it's gonna happen. But when a bird, I suspect when I don't know what it is, maybe a lizard appears or something that threatens the bird and it just flies away and does this. I don't know how to describe it, but like this is a recurring thing. So I suspect it's similar to when humans laugh. I mean, not in the context, but when something happens and every human does that same sound. Or when we scream, I would suspect it's a scream of fear, like and they're flying away. I guess that's what the bird does. It completely flees away from that and does this sound. So I would think this is a bird screaming in fear or in surprise or something. I would suspect. So this one would be, I would say, yeah, in this regard, this can be like what I think these people are doing, and this theoretical person who I feel is like taking away the depth of this by wanting to catalog, put everything into a catalog, and at that point you don't have this person, you know, Wikipedia kind of deal, no. And there are crows too, and they talk with the crows too. But sometimes I feel like these little birds, they just copy what the crows say in a mocking way. I don't know. I'm projecting. But I mean, I always find the crows goofy, so it's so funny that to hear these small birds also the same thing. I've never heard this. This is completely new now. I think this stuff they talk about when they feel safer. It feels like they're now talking about something different. Or saying different things. When I would... This sound. When you go, when they don't know you, they suspect you're a threat. The car alarm sound. They hover over you and continuously do this sound, which to me feels like they're shooting you down with noises, trying to get you away, but also feeling like this could be coordinates or something that they relay to every other bird, because I suspect it's close to nests. I believed when I heard this for the longest time. This is usually the sound I heard initially. And this is the sound they do when there are falcons around, or me riding my bike in a place I was never there before. And there's usually a bird that starts to fly over me. I try to pinpoint where it is. Then I could see what is the danger. It could also be it's a new bird that came here and it didn't know me and started doing this. And then it realized, wait a second, and stopped, because it stopped now. Because they're, as you hear, they're in communication with each other. And not projecting, thinking about them as birds or something. And they probably also have they have age differences between each other, and I'm pretty sure personality differences, all this stuff. When I hear having this in mind, and roles. For example, I suspected always that these birds hovering over, they are the birds who are the cautious watch. They are on watch. But but I don't know if if they change it, or if certain birds volunteer to do this out of all this stuff. I have no clue. Like I'm starting to. I just had this personal experience with that bird, where I cried in a forest, and it sat in front of me and sang the most personal and beautiful way, feeling like it's, how would you speak to a hurt child, the voice that you use. And I felt cared for, and I think I do this here just to show that, to prove that I'm not a nutcase. Or no, I forget about this. It's to prove that there's difference, or maybe to try and see if to prove that I wasn't just imagining this. I mean, I heard the same voice. Looking back, when I was doing that first, journal entry, when it happened, there were already birds singing that way. So this discouraged me. Like it was really, but then, no, there are subtle differences. It was sitting in front of me. And it's responding. And some birds, when the sun's out this morning, I think now the thing's cloudier, and their sounds are more, their range is more muted, their range. But in German there's a word that's called entzückt, or entzückt, and I don't know the English word. It's, wait a second, let me try to think about what its word is in English. When the sun's out, it's a beautiful moment, and I'm sitting there with my coffee in my hand and my breakfast, and I hear these birds sing. Just the range, you can hear it in their voice that they're so, the feeling of happiness or something. It's like isn't like, it's like, all like, it's so, and I hear it, and you can hear it in their voice, like this. At the end, this. Oh, yeah. It's like similar to, when I know the energy, the feeling. It translates through that song, or to these tones it does. And there's emotion in there. To say it again and bring it into context, that I have this feeling that birds, are very emotional beings, and I felt emotionally hurt, even though that I didn't understand a single thing what it was, if it was saying anything, but I felt everything, and I felt also that, the way it was responding in that moment. So you don't need information to convey emotions, and that was also an epiphany for me. Bring it into context to music, which I wanted initially, but now I have the correct way to approach, a good way to approach this tangent or this topic. Um, how I would now think about choosing a chord progression, because now I know, now I have literal evidence and how it resonates with me and how I would feel. And speaking about, the emotional context, in that moment, the relationship or the interaction, her response, I would say that Bird was a her. Bird mama. What I Yeah, I would say in a like constructed in this context. Now I know in when I would do a chord progression, having now this in mind with the bird songs and how this moment makes me feel. Now I know where this I can channel this from, and this was a eye-opening experience for me. And now I am closer to knowing what I'm doing. Because most of the time I felt like how, for example, Trent Reznor gets these chord progressions. I mean, I know the songs and the his voice, how your voice changes when you speak with true emotions, which now I consciously acknowledged. I always knew this, I felt this, but I wasn't aware of it. I felt weird or different or just strange. Not that I am weird or different, it's some internalized stuff because of how, everything happening. And starting to reflect about this, when I started to reflect about getting attuned to my emotions and reflecting about this and noticing stuff, realizing that, then realizing the stuff with emotional resonance, and also noticing how my emotions or my mood changes from day to day, depending on the environment. And interestingly, when I go out with awareness about this, I immediately see this in other people too, and then at this moment, like, I can differentiate it. It's not, when I had bad moments, it's not because I was bad or something, but it was because there's this overall mood, this mood difference that affects everybody, and it brings me more my relationship to my environment. It brings it more into an evident context where I can be sure now what's more sure of what's what, and in this case, not no longer being affected anymore so much. I'm affected emotionally, and I know that I'm beginning to become proficient. I would say at least more proficient than I was before, and I can change my mood also on those rainy days. I can have it under, and then realizing people's bad moods seep onto me still, and then I run away from these people, try to get away, and then starting to feel like arrogant just because I don't share people's moods. Like, all this stuff comes up and I can't. But I've constructed a tool, I would say, this way. I one day I will want to formulate it in a better way, but this shall be good enough for now to describe it this way. A mood to manage my emotions in this regard, starting with awareness as an approach. And now everything is like the word reveals itself. It's like a normal consciousness, just like as David Lynch said when it was doing transcendental meditation. But I wasn't doing it because it felt to me a little bit, you know. I was also noticing like I was doing the same thing when I was praying. So there's some truth to it, but I don't want to approach it through. But forget about this. Just consciousness. When I was talking about this field of consciousness kind of deal, and sadness lifting away and everything. Like this is exactly like literally the thing that happened. What he was describing when I noticed that I am in that this animal is attuned to my, was noticing me, cared about me, flew all the way in front of me. Like I could move over and crush it with my hand. Sat right in front of me because it was hearing that I was crying or sad, and then knowing all this stuff happening, just like reflecting about this, what this is, like sitting in front of me, singing a song, and moments before, if I wasn't aware of it, like I would think, it's just sitting in front of me and just doing, it's just part of the background noise, or when you have a movie set and 99% of what you see on that screen is stuff that that's or better example, when people do video game design, environmental design for video games, and they start speaking about assets and putting down assets to putting cobbling. Now I'm saying like cobbling together assets to create a scene, and this depth of understanding of what's happening. Not to pose myself as not to pose myself. I think now what I'm doing is what I hear most people do when they go on a walk here in nice nature. They start complaining about, complaining about everybody, and this is usually the now responding to the birds. This almost people walking about. I'm going back to the. Just give me. I will go back to the video game thing, or the environment thing, but people walking around and they're complaining. Like you can hear it, and in the mood, and like, and here that thinking, what if this bird is replicating this? Because it's a phenomenon here. These people are everywhere, and you know what I mean when they start complaining. When they start complaining about, it's usually two people. It's and middle-aged women, and you can see these are usually people that I suspect work in offices or something. I don't know. Especially, definitely like stable jobs, and it feels and they express their pent up resentment and depression, and and it's just a constant stream of complaining. I go away, but think hearing this bird and what I feel, what I was doing right now when I was speaking in the same tone when I was speaking about throwing down some assets, and as birds starting doing this, and thinking about what is the emotion that I'm doing right now, hearing that bird sing, and immediately thinking it's similar to what these people are doing. And also when I was thinking about I was hearing some birds, and some of them sound to me like machine gun sounds, or rockets flying, and grenades. And I was wondering if these birds reflect back the sounds of war that's happening. It was just a thought. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, noticing that bird sat in front of me and bring it into context with I wouldn't have noticed it if I wasn't attuned to my emotions. It is similar to, I would have passed it off as just environmental stuff. Similar to when people do construct and I went over to say movies, but then I thought video games are a better example. When there are environments and you treat trees and this as assets, and you plant them there and there and there, and birds are what's it word? There's a certain word called, a certain word for that. Requisiten is in German. It's just stuff, just but now it's not just something that's it's not just decoration. I think it's a good enough word. The grass and the earth, and it's not just decoration in a scene. It's in a relationship with its environment. And, and when that bird sit in front of me, I know now I'm not alone. And this wasn't just a bird. It wasn't doing. It was doing it because of me. And I'm grateful. And I'm part of this. I don't know how to describe it, but it was different when it sat in front of me in that moment. There's still a danger in my head that I'm imagining everything and I was truly alone, but it's a thought. I've written it onto my both are thoughts, but the thing is, I have in that moment it was directed to me, because now thinking about seeing, there's at least evidence that they sing the same songs in a different way, and there's small differences, and looking it up and finding actual proof that birds are emotional creatures, and at least crows can pick up on your expressions too. But looking at these birds piecing together their own nature and how they relate to each other and to their environment, they do it almost completely acoustically, at least when they're far away from each other. I mean, they're grooming each other and all this stuff too, but what you usually hear and what they most of the time hear, they relate to each other through sounds. And when I had this experience listening to music and all this, how much stuff is in sounds and subtleties. Now I remember again, or notice differentiating between authentic and emotion, expressing an authentic emotion versus pretending to be the emotion, versus copying a song, not knowing what it means, finding it cool, versus doing what most people do. Middle school, you're making a rock band with your friends and you start playing Smog on the Water and all these bands, but you have no fucking clue. And listening to all this stuff, but actually having no idea. I had this experience with somebody at the gym. I was saying like, can you make put on other music, that has more rhythm. He was putting on like Linkin Park and all this stuff, that era of music, but that's what I mean. It's so this is absolutely ironic. Like that person, I remember watching. Not Does It Hold Up? It's in a similar vein of Does It Hold Up? There's a bunch of children, and they make them react to Linkin Park music, and all of them unanimously say, "Oh God damn, this sounds absolutely depressing. This sounds depressing." And I forgot his name, John Linkin Park, is they got him too, and giving him his response, and he said, it's not depressing. It's supposed to be uplifting." And then fast forward a year, he has done suicide. And I find this like not, you know, I find it so ironic, because I feel absolutely depressed when I listen to Linkin Park. Just regardless of the cognitive stuff, I'm pretty sure he was in much worse shit. So this music was actually uplifting to him, but objectively, just like out of context, just in absolute speaking, emotional resonance. When I flush myself from all this stuff and I hear Linkin Park, I get depressed. I don't want to listen to this. I feel like shit, okay? So there was some truth in what those children said, regardless of that person's defense. And I find it ironic that, it didn't save him. And it seems like, now I'm massively projecting, it's like, arrogant or whatever what I'm saying, but like it's so ironic that, at the end, like that happens, and it just changes the perspective of this music to me, and I mean, you know, uh, that's all I wanted to say. I always wanted to say this, but I forgot about it, or I didn't find the right moment. So I think it's a good context, because the bird sounds and my emotions and all the stuff that are important to me right now, tying together to music and how I feel. It's a good moment to say this, but to the experience I had, like I was saying to him, can you put on something with rhythm, because I feel depressed, something more upbeat. He was completely baffled. He doesn't know. He was always listening to this stuff, but I began to realize it didn't do something with him emotionally. And then I realized, like, I don't know if you know Ed Benguia. He's a typographer, and before that, he's a funny guy. You should look him up. But he's also like very very harsh. It's like he's a covert critic, but he's funny and upbeat. But yeah, he said there's some people running around here. There's some people, like, you can't teach graphic design to everybody. There's some people running around. They're just blind. Like they're tone blind. They're color blind. And to me, felt like he was emotion blind. At least to the depressingness of the depressingness or the emotions of, because he didn't know. He was completely overwhelmed. He didn't know anything. He didn't know. He had no vocabulary. I felt like, to me, someone, he had no emotional vocabulary. It was like a deer on headlights. And eventually, through describing to him, like, we finally chose what's that called? Not drum and bass. No, family friendly hip hop. And it was now too, it wasn't the energy. It wasn't the energy. It was the feeling. It's it's not, rolling yourself up in a warm blanket kind of thing. What I would want like is like drum beats, doom, 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 stuff like this. But he was overwhelmed, like because he wasn't relating. It felt he wasn't in resonance with music in the same way I was emotionally, because it I use it to empower me, but it's a if you're it's a double-edged sword. It can ruin you and it can empower you. It can ruin your mood and it can yeah and it was just interesting and an epiphany to see this, that like not seeing ghosts, just like Newton who was for paraphrasing Neil deGrasse Tyson, like Newton being accused of being a ghost seer, when he was talking about gravity, finding out gravity. Like I felt like now I'm not, but most of the girls were attuned to this, and I would suspect they know what I mean when I say like this music is fucking depressing. Please change it, because I think from a young age they are allowed to and not frowned upon, or I don't know, they are allowed to reflect upon this stuff, or they are not made self-conscious in a negative way about doing this, or when you're in middle school, like you're being having being called gay for almost everything, like you accidentally picked up I don't know, whatever it is, like, and like hypervigilance about not being harassed, and you can't do this. So because Linkin Park ties to my middle school time. I listened to Powerman 5000 rather, and now I can say about something else that I want to say. It's always, everybody was like, why does he sing so weird? Like, it's so disgusting. Like, I don't know, it's cool, but like having this, I literally see the expression like, it's just like, what the fuck? But when I was listening to the interviews with Michael, and then when Rob Zombie, Michael does, Spider-One doesn't do many interviews. Like, it's just people catching him on the street sometimes, and he's already like a little bit like making this stuff with his lips, like, and then what the or some nerds, some misfit nerds. I hope this doesn't sound harsh. I don't mean it this way, but some nerds interview me, and they ask, they don't ask the questions I want to know. And then his brother Rob Zombie was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he, like, everything like set together when he said like they were born in a religious family. They were strongly religious, but they were doing a convent operation. It's like exactly what I have with my parents. Like, they are strong religious people, but they do a gambling operation. Like, and having a talk with my mom, I want to talk about this. And right now, I don't feel like talking about this, but I want to talk about this in another time, because something very unsettling happened. But like, she talking again, like, I'm a Muslim wearing my this headdress, and like, look at me, I'm doing gambling. Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, I was literally, why do you think I'm trying to do all this stuff, product design, and setting my I had talked about this, but whatever. The thing is, it was about her in that moment, so yeah, Rob Zombie talking about the history, and then one incident happening where a guy got mauled with his hammer in his face, smashed with a hammer in his face because there was a brawl or something, like somebody lost money or whatever, and then it's hell breaking news, and a man, Spider-One's little, as a I think 4-year-old or 5-year-old child or 6-year-old, I don't know, very young, see this happen, and then, now I wonder, not wonder, now I know where the lyric "put the hammer," literally the song, where "put the hammer down" comes from, that song, and why he often sings about exploding heads. where now I have a completely different context, because in many of his songs, like, he sings about exploding heads and all this stuff, and then what's it called? Sid Vicious in a dress. Sid Vicious in a dress. At the end, like, it's Spider himself. And in the end, like, that girl is like, what's it called? This Marvel character, this Harley Quinn looking fucked up girl. And at the end, she takes the baseball bat and, slams it in his head, explodes in a gory thing, like, and like, how, like, after hearing this, and this is where it comes from. It's fucked up, and it's like, goddamn. I forgot what it was. I think it was just me wanting to share this. Wanted to talk about this. I forgot what I wanted to say. Oh yeah, it was his voice. Going all the way back. Yeah. Oh yeah. Continuing. Now I have my train of thought again. It continues to say about, like, them spending a lot of time watching horror movies and all stuff, and the growing up with horror movies. And then I hear Spider-One singing during the time with the initial albums the way it does, and then I'm uploading a video about stuff I had secret overcome now, coming out of the closet, because I feel like it will haunt me for the rest of my life. And then what else does a boy do? And I fucking realized his voice is a porn actress. He's singing like a porn actress. That's where it comes from. That's what it is. That's why it makes you fucking uncomfortable. And it's intentional, and it's like that's the background. One of the major parts in Spider-One's voice. Rob Zombie is saying it like a zombie, and he's because it's most of the stuff is the comic book and movie stuff, and yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. That's what I wanted to say. So I wonder if I look weird, because sometimes I get, like, really excited about the stuff that I'm talking and really into it, and then I begin talking loudly, and there's a woman with her dog, and she's just looking at me and immediately thinking, like, I'm fucking weird. Put this guy into a clinic. I hope it's not too weird, because I hope she didn't hear me screaming porn actress there. What the hell is he doing? I hold up the thing. I have not a dead cat. This on my recorder. I have this foam, this black foam. It literally looks like a thing. So yeah. I hope this doesn't have repercussions. I hope, I can't get far. That's the reason why I go into the forest. So I can do this stuff without thinking like there will be repercussions and being a weirdo. And then now hoping that if I get all this stuff out, that it will help me feeling okay about myself. But I'm listening to a Trent Reznor. I said when he was, it's probably approaching 200 times now. I've listened to his interview between Trent Reznor and Rick Rubin now for 200 times, and it's just he's still so awkward even after. Trent is still so awkward even after. It's just so like, dude, when he said like, it's talking about music, like being excited about music or something. It was honest, like just what music has done for me my whole life, regarding how what role it played for him emotionally, and then instead of like honestly and sitting there, because it's what beautiful what you said, he goes like, didn't leave time to settle and talk, have this emotional talk about this, which I feel like it goes on anyway. And so, dude, just sit with it, because just let it sink in. It's anyway, because he feels like awkward about this. So it was something else I wanted to say, which I now forgot, obviously. Give me a moment so I can recall it. Anyway, you didn't even leave like a couple seconds like for Rick to say something, because Rick is exactly the person you can like be open about and talk about this, because it's all about that's what I mean. Like, it's so jarring because you've opened up and all this stuff, and people love you for exactly this, but you're still treating it like, and then wondering like, will it makes me wonder, like, will I ever be able to not feel awkward, even though I've shown you um all my the hidden drawings that I did a lot. Anyway, see, it's a lot. And then thinking, if I give everything out, will I still not be okay like myself? Like, will I still like be like, anyway, like Trent, when I speak with a person like, but then also considering what he said. I don't know who Anthony is, but like Anthony, he know how to be a rock star. He knows how to be himself. Which put into my perspective, there are people who may, from how it felt to me when I was saying this, there are people who are not awkward being themselves. Maybe like this like this gives me hope. So it's a personal thing or something, I don't know. I hope I will be more like Anthony in this regard, or this Anthony he was talking about. I love Trent and his music, and this stuff, and it's so jarring that anyway. Yeah. So okay, I think I wrap it up here. I feel happy now. There's still the meteor. It feels like still there's a meteor looming over me, But right now, in this moment, if I put my eyes in front of my hand in front of my eyes, kind of deal, I feel okay. So I think I'm going to get myself yeah. Okay, I I wrap it up, and I thankful for anybody listening, and I was questioning myself for most of the time, like I see it some people, I don't know how to make good endings, and it's like you don't need to question yourself, every ending is good. So that's what my friend said to me, like in general, like don't question yourself, and it's one of the things I remind myself to. So um, thank you for, if you listen and like this, for just listening to this, and uh, let me end it with a little bit of bird sounds. No, this one's laughing.